5 bone-chilling Maryland horror stories that will haunt you forever. In the heart of Maryland lies a sinister secret, buried deep beneath layers of history and fear. Picture this, a night so dark, it seems to swallow the stars whole, where ghostly whispers flow through the trees, and the chill in the air feels like ice creeping along your spine. It's the perfect backdrop for 5 tales that will make your blood run cold and your heart race. First, there's the notorious story of the Phantom of the St. Mary's City. Locals say she wanders the old streets, her flowing white dress trailing behind her like a veil of mist. Many who have crossed her path report feeling an unshakable sense of dread, tightness in their chests as a sudden unease settles in. A young couple swore they saw her just last autumn. Their screams drew a small crowd, eyes wide, breathless, as the girl was suddenly pulled off the cobblestone path by an unseen force. She vanished, and so did the light of the world around them. In Baltimore, an abandoned asylum stands crumbling yet defiant. The infamous Rosewood Center is famous not just for its disturbing past, but for the flickering lights that dance hauntingly in its empty windows. Explorers who step inside often hear disembodied screams echoing through the empty halls, a chilling reminder of the pain that loomed within. Just ask Jeff, who once dared to film a tour there. He came out pale and shaking, whispering about a shadowy figure that followed him home. A lump formed in his throat as he recalled the nights filled with nightmares that ensued. By the shores of the Chesapeake, the legend of the haunting mermaid springs to life. Fishermen tell tales of her enchanting voice luring them close, promising riches and adventure. But when the men succumbed to her call, they found themselves trapped beneath the waves, gasping for breath as the shimmering depths swallowed them whole. It hits hard. Imagine the fight, the desperation. The fishermen's faces twisted in horror, their hands clawing at the water while a haunting melody echoed, slipping farther and farther away. And let us not forget about the blood-curdling legend of Ellicott City, where a derailed train met its tragic end. The wreck was violent, screams of the trapped filling the night, but it doesn't end there. Ghostly figures are said to linger along those old tracks, fueled by the memories of pain and loss. Shadows dart among the trees, and shadows of lost souls roam, perpetually searching for peace. A couple thought they could capture this on camera, but what they got left them shattered. The screams they caught weren't just audio artifacts, they were desperate pleas that echoed in their minds long after the recording stopped. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Now, back to the horror that lurks just below the surface. Another place worth mentioning is the blood-soaked grounds of the old Stevensville plantation. They say if you stand silently at midnight, you can hear the cries of an anguished mother searching for her lost child. The chill runs deeper there, the wind carrying the mournful echoes of a tragic past. What would you do if you felt that presence beside you? What if, suddenly, you weren't alone anymore? With every otherworldly echo and shadowy figure, Maryland's tales are woven into the fabric of the night, gripping your heart tighter with each pulse. Each story reminds us of something lurking, something waiting just out of sight. What happens when we dare to confront our deepest fears? Will we run, or will we find a way to face the darkness head-on? One thing's for sure, the next chapter awaits with even more chilling revelations, and you won't want to miss it. The night had fallen thick and heavy, wrapping the old Stevensville plantation in a shroud of darkness that felt almost alive. As the oppressive weight of silence crept in, it was only broken by the distant, sorrowful wails of a mother, a sound so raw, it could tear at your very soul. Sarah, a local who had heard the legend but never dared to test it, found herself standing at the edge of the plantation, her heart racing like wild drums in her chest. What possessed her to come here? Curiosity? A thrill-seeking spirit that had lain dormant too long? She felt foolish, staring into the abyss of the unknown, yet something called to her, pulling her closer. The stories of loss, of haunting sorrow, they thrummed through her veins, inviting her to listen. As she took a step forward, the wind howled, sending chills racing up her spine like icy fingers. Did she just hear a whisper? Help me. The voice was soft, fragile, a mere echo clinging to the night. Was it real, or just her imagination running wild? Her feet moved against her will, treading deeper into the darkness of the plantation grounds. Nearby, an old oak tree stood like a sentinel, its gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. As she approached, the air grew thick, tense, drawing in every hesitant breath. Sarah reached into her pocket, fingers trembling, pulling out her phone, dim light cutting through the ache of shadow. She caught her breath, ready to capture the moment. But as she aimed her camera at the tree, it felt as though the very air around her twisted, charged with a crackling energy. But then, she saw it, a figure, faint and flickering at the edges of her vision. She whipped her head to the side, catching only a glimpse of something pale before it vanished into the murky depths of the night. The hairs on her neck stood at attention. "Hello?" she called out, her voice sounding foreign and trembling in her own ears. In that moment, a spine-chilling laugh echoed through the silence, bouncing off the walls of her mind. It was not the laughter of a child, or the mischievous giggle of a friend. It was deep, twisted, burdened with sorrow. Her chest tightened, a lump forming as she turned to flee, heart pounding wildly, just as the ground beneath her began to shift. "Help me." The voice came again, right behind her, more urgent now. Panic clawed at her throat as the depths of the plantation seemed to come alive, the whispers growing louder, drowning her senses. Shadows swirled around her, forming shapes that danced on the edge of fear and reality. She spun back toward the tree, using the light of her phone as a shield. Who's there? In that moment of desperation, she thought she saw a face, a woman's visage twisted in agony. But then, just as quickly, it was gone, leaving behind an unfathomable emptiness. Was that the anguished mother? The thought chilled her even more. Stepping backward, she stumbled, her foot catching on the roots of the ancient oak. The laughter returned, mocking, as a gust of frigid wind struck her, pushing her right into the ground. Dazed, she pulled herself up, but now the shadows felt closer, the voices surrounding her like a storm of unseen tormentors. Struggling to catch her breath, she realized she was no longer alone. Around her, ghostly figures began to form, their faces both familiar and terrifying, reaching out as if begging for her aid. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, desperation wrapping around her words, but the night stood still, suffocated in silence. In that frozen moment, she understood one chilling truth: some secrets should never be uncovered, some calls should never be answered. And then she saw it, a flicker of light in the distance, pulsing like a heartbeat. The energy surrounding it was magnetic, shifting her instinct to fight into an eerie curiosity. What lay at the end of that light? Drawing her closer, it beckoned, promising answers and perhaps something darker. Would she dare to follow? The choice hung in the air like smoke, suspended between dread and intrigue. What awaited her in the mouth of the unknown? As she took a hesitant step forward, she could only hope she wouldn't vanish like those who had come before her. The light pulsed rhythmically, its glow a siren's call in the enveloping darkness. Sarah hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to turn back. But the curiosity burned hot in her chest. Each step towards the glow felt like a surrender, an invitation to uncover whatever lay beneath the surface of her own fears. With her phone clutched tightly, the light revealed itself more clearly, a dilapidated structure, once grand but now crumbling, adorned by creeping ivy and shrouded in mist. The windows, hollow and dark, seemed to be watching her as if the house itself breathed with anticipation. An overwhelming sense of dread settled over her, yet she felt rooted to the ground, unable to turn away. "Help me," the voice echoed again, sharp and desperate. It wasn't a plea anymore, it was a command. Sarah found herself at the small porch, the wood creaking ominously under her weight, sending vibrations through her anxious body. Behind her, the shadows twisted and turned, flickering with an energy that felt almost alive. "Who are you?" she pressed, feeling foolish. The air thickened around her, raising goosebumps along her skin. A chill settled deep in her bones, warning her of the danger ahead. The door creaked open as if pushed by unseen hands, revealing a darkness that beckoned like a throat swallowing its prey. "Step inside," a whisper breathed. Sarah drew a breath, a shaky thing that barely filled her lungs, and took a tentative step over the threshold. Instantly, she was engulfed in a cold, damp chill that felt like 1,000 icy fingers gliding over her skin. Dust motes danced in the shaft of light, swirling like lost spirits in search of escape. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, overwhelming her senses as she ventured deeper into the heart of the place. As she moved further, shadows flitted past her periphery, moving like restless specters. Worn portraits hung precariously on the walls, their subjects gazing down at her with hollow eyes, as if accusing her very existence. One portrait stood out, framed in tarnished gold, a woman with dark hair and a face twisted in sorrow, the same woman she had seen in the fleeting features that haunted her moments earlier. "Help me!" The cry came again, louder, more desperate, filling the air with an urgency that sent shivers down her spine. The ground seemed to pulse beneath her feet, and without warning, the room around her shimmered, transforming into a scene of chaos, a vision of the past. A lavish ballroom burst to life, sparkling chandeliers glistening overhead, laughter echoing off the walls, rich fabrics draping over bodies twirling in delight. But then, the joyous atmosphere twisted, darkened. Laughter morphed into screams, faces turned grotesque with agony. She gasped as the laughter of the partygoers became intermingled with cries for mercy. Amidst the chaos, Sarah saw the woman from the portrait. Her heart raced as she recognized her. This was the anguished mother, trapped in a moment of despair that never faded. "Help!" The woman's voice rose above the cacophony, reaching for Sarah. Terror clawed at Sarah's throat as she tried to pull back, but the vision gripped her, holding her firm within its ghastly grasp. The laughter, the lights, they flickered and then split into an overwhelming darkness. "Find me!" The woman's anguished cry echoed again, resonating like a bell tolling a fate she could not escape. Sarah felt the very roots of her existence tremble as the world around her began to collapse, and she realized she faced the daunting choice, to help, or to flee. And as her vision blurred into the void, the shadows intensified, swirling in chaotic circles around her until everything dissolved into darkness. In that moment, she understood. This wasn't just about helping the lost, it was about understanding the depths of her own fears. The question loomed heavy: would she have the strength to seek the truth, or was she destined to become another whisper in this desolate place? A chilling certainty sank in. A dark secret lay in wait, ready to reveal itself, if only she dared to delve deeper. The darkness was suffocating, a heavy shroud that pressed against Sarah from all sides. Pulsing with dread, her heart beat in tandem with the chaos she'd just witnessed. Breath hitching in her throat, she stumbled forward, uncertain but determined. "Find me!" The woman's voice shimmered through the gloom, a thread of hope tangled with despair. The desperate call wrapped around Sarah like a noose, pulling her away from the comforting lure of retreat. She needed to get closer but felt the walls of the house inching in, as if it sought to bury her alive in its haunted past. She stepped carefully, her phone flickering weakly, illuminating bits of the mayhem. Each flash revealed crushed velvet carpets, shattered mirrors, and walls stained by something long dried, something that felt like sorrow. Collecting herself, she mustered a fragile courage that burned within. Rumbling echoes from the ballroom crept from the walls, wrapping Sarah's senses in nostalgia tinged with horror. She could almost hear the wistful notes of a waltz, now warped and twisted. "Where are you?" she called, her voice trembling. As if in response, a wooden door caught her eye, slightly ajar, beckoning with a sliver of light seeping through. A cold wind, like a whispering voice, slipped through the crack, inviting her to delve deeper into what lay beyond. She pushed the door open, heart hammering against her ribs. Beyond the threshold was a corridor, dark and claustrophobic, lined with more portraits, their eyes now burning with intensity. Sarah averted her gaze, feeling their judgment as if they could crush her with their stares. But curiosity won out. She moved further down the corridor, drawn by the flickering light at the end that seemed to waver like a flame in the wind. Help me, it was closer now. The urgency was palpable, a pulse thrumming in the air. Sarah quickened her pace, each footfall echoing ominously in the air. Suddenly, she slipped on something, her heart racing as she fell hard against the floor. Rubbing her knee, she looked down in alarm, wetness smeared across her fingers. Panting, she leaned closer, horror dawning upon her. It was a dark crimson. Is this blood? She stammered, eyes wide in disbelief. The corridor stretched endlessly before her, the source of the stain a cruel mystery that sent fresh jolts of fear through her veins. Just then, a door burst open nearby with a loud crash, revealing a room filled with muted whispers and frantic shadows. They beckoned, pulling at Sarah's consciousness. In here. Someone hissed, an insistent voice threading through the gloom. She stood, uncertainty gripping her once more. Is this a trap? She thought, heart pounding. She wanted to turn back, to flee, but the pull was too strong. The woman needed her. As Sarah stepped closer, all thoughts of retreat dissolved. Shadows rippled around her, pulling her into their swirling despair. With each step, an icy dread coursed through her veins, mixing with a confusing blend of purpose. Then, a scream shattered the low hum of whispers, a sound so raw and visceral it sucked the air from her lungs. Help! The voice cried out louder now, twisting in agony. Sarah stumbled through the doorway, realizing with dawning horror that the room was a shrine of memories frozen in time, darkness alive and pulsing. Fragments of half-remembered lives echoed back at her. An elderly man wept in the corner while a child, frozen in time, danced nervously with a broken doll. Each figure was a ghost of the past, a life interrupted, and then she saw her, the woman from the portrait, standing at the center of it all, her face twisted with anguish. You've come, she gasped, eyes glistening with unspoken secrets. You have to help me find the key. What key? Sarah shouted, desperation piercing through her fear, but before she could receive an answer, the shadows thickened, swallowing the room in an all-consuming darkness. The woman's form flickered like a flame, a desperate light in the void. Find the truth before it consumes you. And then she vanished, leaving only the echo of her plea behind. Sarah's breath hitched again. No turning back. She was trapped, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on her. Each heartbeat was a countdown, urgency gnawing at her resolve. She realized the key wasn't just to save the woman, but to save herself from whatever lay in wait. As the darkness closed in, a new question loomed in her mind: was she strong enough to face the truth that could destroy her? The shadows beckoned, hungry and alive, and she had no choice but to plunge headfirst into the unknown. The shadows shifted around Sarah, swirling like thick fog trying to envelop her whole. She felt the air grow heavier, pressing against her chest, squeezing the breaths from her lungs. What now? She thought, feeling the panic rise in her throat. The room trembled with anguish, and she could hear muffled cries mixing with the haunting waltz that still echoed from the ballroom. I have to find that key, the thought became her mantra, pushing her forward into the encroaching blackness. She stepped deeper into the darkness, her heart thrumming erratically. The walls echoed her footsteps, mocking her uncertain resolve. Sarah thrust her hands out, feeling for any solidity in the nothingness. Her fingers grazed something cool and smooth metal. As she brushed her fingers over it, a jolt shot through her, and she knew, instinctively, it was a key. Where does it go? She whispered, cringing at the sound of her own voice in the void. Just then, the shadows pulled back slightly, revealing the outline of a massive door, etched with intricate designs that twisted like vines. Some part of her recognized this door, as if it had lived inside memories she had never known. Taking a step closer, Sarah could see the door's surface shimmer, urging her to reach out and insert the key. A low growl resounded from the other side, a sound so primal it sent chills racing down her spine. Do I dare? She thought, the key pulsating in her grasp, fingers trembling. She slid the key into the lock. A soft click resonated, and her breath hitched as the door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into profound darkness. The air wafting from below was cold and damp, carrying the scent of decay, and an unmistakable sense of dread coiled around her. Sarah took a deep breath, summoning what courage she could muster. "I have to know," she whispered, letting her training instincts take over. Each cautious step down the staircase was a small rebellion against the overwhelming fear that threatened to swallow her whole. The whispers grew louder now, swirling around her like a tempest, words overlapping in a chaotic symphony of sorrow and rage. "Help us, we are lost," floated a voice, calling to her as though she were the last lifeline to their salvation. She squinted into the darkness, but saw only shadows. When she reached the bottom, a dim light flickered on. It illuminated a chamber filled with mirrors, reflecting countless versions of what was. Each mirror held a scene, a life cut short, a betrayal rippling through time. A young woman, sobbing beside an empty cradle, an old man staring blankly as the walls around him crumbled. What is this?" Sarah stammered. Panic clawed at her throat. "See us!" The voices cried out, their urgency building. "Remember us!" Her reflection morphed into the woman from the portrait, eyes wide and pleading. "You must confront the past." Her lips moved in frantic silence. Before she could process the warning, shadows erupted, taking form before her, swirling into angry figures filled with torment. "You are not welcome here!" One screamed, voice booming like thunder. "Back!" Sarah shouted, stepping back instinctively. The shadows lunged, seeking her, and she felt the pull of their despair. "I'm not here to hurt you. I want to help." "Help?" they echoed, doubt lacing their tones. "You can't save the damned." Suddenly, the key in her hand grew unbearably hot, burning against her skin. In a wild attempt, she thrust it towards them. "What if this unlocks the truth?" she yelled, her voice thick with desperation. The shadows hesitated. In that liminal moment, Sarah felt the weight of their collective sorrow. Did they hope for salvation? Or would this only plunge her deeper into their suffering? A blinding flash erupted as the mirrors exploded into shards, casting reflections across the walls. Sarah screamed, her lungs filling with icy air, as the echoes of countless souls became one deafening roar, evoking one final, shattering thought: what if the truth reveals more than she ever bargained for? Questions flooded her mind, but amidst the chaos of racing thoughts, a singular truth started to take shape. What if she was meant to be part of their torment, not their savior? As the darkness dissolved around her, her heart raced. The doorway loomed again, a gaping maw demanding her decision. The shadows lingered, still hungry for the truth she held, challenging her to embrace whatever horror awaited on the other side. The shadows swirled in a frenzy, their whispers clawing at Sarah's mind like frantic wildlife. Each flicker of movement sent jolts through her, and she realized that she stood on a precipice not just of the staircase, but of her very existence. A flickering uncertainty gnawed at her thoughts. If she stepped through that door, would she find the answers she sought, or would she become just another lost voice among them? With a surge of resolve, she dashed toward the door, the pounding of her heartbeat drumming in her ears. She stumbled through the threshold, bracing herself for whatever horrors lay ahead. The air shifted, heavy with an oppressive grief that clung to her skin like wet fog. The moment she crossed the barrier, the world brightened momentarily, only to be replaced by an eye-piercing darkness. Shadows writhed as if alive, whispering secrets and sorrows. "You shouldn't be here." A voice hissed, sharp as ice. "Who are you?" Sarah shouted into the void, her voice shaking yet defiant. "What do you want from me?" "Only the truth," the voices chorused, their tones eerily synchronized, each word imploring her to remember, to confront her own darkness. The chamber brightened again just long enough for Sarah to glimpse a massive stone pedestal rising from the center, crowned by a grotesque statue that seemed to weep shadows. Torn between dread and curiosity, she took a cautious step forward. Her hand brushed against the cold, rough stone, and she recoiled at the sudden flash of memories that burst through her mind like shattering glass. Flashes of a past she didn't recognize flooded her senses. A screaming child. A house engulfed in flames. The face of the woman from the portrait twisted in pain. "No!" Sarah cried, clutching her head in anguish. "This isn't my story." "Then whose is it?" The shadows swirled faster, mocking her confusion. "You are tied to this. Free us, and perhaps you'll free yourself." The pedestal trembled, and Sarah noticed inscriptions etched into its surface, glowing with an unsettling light. They twisted and turned, letters morphing into names she didn't understand: Emily, Victor, Annabelle. Unknown fates twisted below her feet, binding her heart in a simmering dread. "Why can't you leave us alone?" she implored, falling to her knees. "I want to help, but how?" "Understand the grief," echoed a voice, soft and ghostly amidst the chaos. "Your key unlocked more than the door. It unlocked your ties to the damned." Sarah felt the shadows pull away momentarily, revealing the truth behind them, a collage of memories she hadn't known were hers. The crying child was her child. The flames swallowed their home because she failed to save them. The woman in the portrait her mother? An avalanche of guilt crashed through her. "No, I couldn't." The hollow pit of despair in her chest expanded, choking her resolve. "I didn't choose this, then choose differently," the figures urged, their cries blending into a haunting melody that struck her spirit. "Do you wish to be free? Do you wish for redemption? What do I need to do?" Her words came out as a whisper, barely audible over the crushing weight of despair. The statue's eyes glowed, seemingly alive, as if they had heard her deep-rooted intention. "Confront the truth within. Only then can the gate of salvation be opened." As she stood again, trembling, she knew the moment of confrontation was approaching. She had to face her past, her grief, and the fears that resided in her, but just before she could take the final step towards clarity, the chamber shook violently. One single word echoed through the tumult: "Run." The ground beneath her trembled, and as the shadows began their wild dance again, threatening to engulf everything, Sarah felt a sudden rush of adrenaline. She turned back towards the archway, scrambling against the tempest of grief. The darkness lashed at her heels, desperately trying to claim her as its own. Would she escape the chains of regret, or would she succumb to the shadows forever? Her breath quickened, every ounce of fight ignited. "I need to face it," she screamed into the swirling void. As it seemed to close in around her, she bolted through the doorway just as the shadows lunged. The silence screamed behind her, a reminder that the truth she feared awaited in the depths. Could she really reclaim her life, or was this another illusion meant to trap her within endless cycles of suffering? The questions clawed at her as the world around her spun and blurred, forcing her deeper into the unknown. What awaited her on the path ahead? The moment Sarah stumbled back into the hallway, the heat engulfed her like a storm. Gasping for breath, she pressed her back against the cold, crumbling stone wall. The shadows surged just behind her, a ravenous tide trying to pull her back into their chilling grip. Her heart raced with a desperate rhythm, pounding against her ribcage as she frantically scanned the dark corridor. Every instinct screamed for her to run. "Where do I go?" she whispered to the empty space around her, panic rising with each echo of her voice. Just ahead, the hallway split into two paths, each cloaked in uncertainty. One side exuded a faint, flickering light, the other swallowed everything into an inky womb of darkness. She hesitated. Fear coiled tight around her throat. In the light, she could see shadows murmur and twist, but in the dark, nothing was visible, as if it were a void waiting to consume her whole. The whispers from the chamber echoed in her mind, the voices a mixture of sorrow and anger: "You are tied to this, ugh." She gritted her teeth, desperate to break free from their haunting call. "I want to be bound by your grief." With a surge of determination, she leaned into the light, her footsteps quickening. But the moment she entered the illuminated path, that warmth shifted. Something was wrong. Flickers of the past danced around her, vibrant flashes that felt corrupt and foreign, smiles turned to screams, laughter warped into cries of despair. "Stop it!" she cried, her hands clamping over her ears as she stumbled forward. The memories pressed in from all sides, their weight heavier than the shadows she had just escaped. "These aren't mine. None of this is happening. Your truth is here," a voice whispered, soft yet insistent, resonating within the walls and wrapping around her like a cold embrace. "You cannot hide from it. Why does everything feel like a nightmare?" Sarah dropped to her knees, feeling the cool ground beneath her like a breath of relief amidst the chaos. "What do I have to confront?" The shadows in front of her swirled, taking on shapes, morphing into figures tormenting her memory. A man with hollow eyes and a twisted smile stepped into view. His skin was a pallid gray, lips drawn thin. "It's time for you to remember, Sarah," he crooned, the word remember tainted with malice. "Remember what you did." "No!" she shrieked, a shuddering cry echoing down the hall. "I have nothing to remember." In a flash, everything shifted again. Instead of the hollow-eyed figure, she faced a burning house, flames licking at the edges of her vision. Her daughter, a frightened little girl, stood right at the front porch, hands extended, calling for her. "Mommy! Help me!" The echoes of that terrified scream surged into her ears, drowning her will. The ground beneath her quaked violently, and she felt herself spiraling down, caught between regret and the pleading voice of a betrayal she had buried deep. "Please! I couldn't save you." Sarah grasped at the floor, but it felt like sand, slipping away under her palms. Suddenly, the scene shifted again, and she was back in the dimly lit corridor. The shadows writhed around her, but something inside her snapped as she met them with unwavering resolve. "Enough!" she bellowed, planting her feet firmly on the ground. "I won't let you dictate my life anymore." The shadows recoiled, as if her defiance terrified them. The specter of her guilt quivered, then coalesced into a singular form, clearer than before, the woman from the portrait, weeping but resolute. "Face it, Sarah." "I will," she breathed, her heart steadying. "I will face the truth." Just as she took a step forward, the ground trembled again, more violently this time. The walls creaked, and everything started to collapse inward. "Sarah!" The haunting cry echoed from the depths of the darkness, morphing into a cacophony of voices, friends, enemies, family, all demanding answers. "What do you want from me?" she screamed, forcing herself to move forward, determined to confront whatever lay ahead. Whatever it was, it lurked just beyond the curtain of shadows. But as she catapulted into the unknown, one chilling realization dawned on her: was confronting the truth truly the key to her freedom, or merely a gateway to greater suffering? The walls rumbled ominously as her heart raced, drowning in uncertainty. What awaited her in the darkness was more than just her memories, it might just be the final reckoning she had never prepared for. Could she emerge alive at the end of it all, or had she just entered a trap of her own making? The darkness closed in like a thick fog, wrapping around Sarah, suffocating and oppressive. She stumbled forward, energy waning, breath coming in shallow gasps. Each hiss of her exhalation felt like a surrender to the shadows, but she pushed on, propelled by one thought: her daughter. "Help me, Mommy!" The cry echoed again, wrapping around her heart like a vice. She blinked against the darkness, desperate for any glimmer of hope. Ahead, a figure emerged. The flickering light cast an eerie glow against his silhouette, illuminating the familiar frame of a man she once trusted. It was Daniel, her late husband. But the eyes staring back at her weren't the kind she remembered. They were sunken, haunted, carrying burdens of grief she had always tried to escape. "Sarah," he sighed, the name drawn out like a mournful wail. "You've come back to us. To face your choices." "Daniel." Hope sparked like a match striking wood. "Help me. I need to remember, I need to save her." "Save who?" His voice was heavy, weighed down with unspoken truths. "You can't save what you never truly lost." The ground churned again, and the walls pulsed like they had a heartbeat. She swallowed hard, feeling the bile rise in her throat. No. I can't accept that. Jess is alive. She has to be. Is she? Daniel stood motionless, and as he did, shadows slithered out from the walls behind him, twisting around his legs like serpents. Are you ready to see the truth, Sarah? Are you ready for what you've been hiding from? She took a hesitant step forward, and suddenly, the reality around her shifted. It morphed into the sweet smell of smoke and burnt wood, fading into a familiar scene, the small house that once held laughter, now shrouded in ash. No. Not this. She cried, falling to her knees as the warmth of nostalgia turned to cold isolation. I don't want to see this. Facing it is the only way to move past it. The specters of the past engulfed her, harrowing apparitions draped in sorrow. A little girl stood there, her face smudged with soot but eyes wide with innocence, arms raised in desperation. Mommy, please. Don't go. Jess. I'm here. I'm coming. Panic clawed at Sarah's gut, each anguished cry tumbling her deeper into despair, but the dark shadow of guilt swirled around her, mocking her, whispering taunts of failure. You left them. You didn't save any of them. No. She recoiled, rage igniting within her. You're wrong. I loved them. With every heartbeat, the ground shook, fissures cracking beneath her. She could feel the weight of the past rekindling the flames of her guilt. Shadows gathered, morphing, swirling into terrifying shapes that drew closer, threatening to swallow her whole. What's happening? Sarah shouted, clenching her fists. Each second felt heavy, as if the world was pressing down on her with an iron grip. Decide, Daniel's voice came from the abyss. Face your truth or be consumed by it. In that chilling moment, clarity surged through her. It wasn't just a choice between memories and shadows, it was a choice of survival. Would she accept the burden of her past, or would she fight to escape it? She inhaled deeply, summoning every ounce of courage left in her. I will face it. I'm ready. As she screamed those words, the shadows lunged at her, dark tendrils reaching to pull her into an abyss of despair. But this time, she wasn't going to let them win. She stood her ground, summoning the memories of joy, love, and light, the fight deep within igniting with fierce determination. The darkness screeched, enveloping her in chaotic energy, and in that shroud of despair, a flicker of hope ignited. But was it enough? As the dark waves crashed closer, Sarah braced herself for what was to come. Could her soul survive this return, or would she be trapped within these cursed walls forever, lost in the echoes of the past? What truth awaited her just beyond the horizon of darkness? The shadows surged forward, clawing at Sarah like talons, each one a whisper of guilt and regret. She could feel the memories crashing into her, a tidal wave of fire and smoke, of laughter that had turned into silence. She wasn't ready for the storm, but she had already made her choice. Don't let them take me. She cried, feeling the tendrils coiling around her ankles, dragging her back. The image of Jess's frightened face burned bright in her mind, a beacon cutting through the darkness. I will not let you win. With each desperate breath, she pushed against the weight closing in on her. She gritted her teeth, fighting against memories twisted in pain. You can't have me. You don't own me. The shadows hesitated, almost as if her determination startled them. For a brief moment, she felt a rush of power. It was fleeting but enough to remind her that she still had a choice. Jess needs me, Sarah murmured, more to herself than the encroaching darkness. And Daniel, you loved us. If you're truly here, help me. The figure of her husband wavered, the shadows consuming him like a sinister smoke. His gaze softened, but there was no warmth. You're stronger than the darkness, Sarah. But you can't fight with anger or denial. His words struck like a lightning bolt. Perhaps her memories weren't her enemy. Perhaps it was her refusal to face them head-on. She thought of the picture she had tucked away, a snapshot of laughter in the backyard, Jess's innocent face illuminated by sun rays streaming through the trees. "I have to confront the truth," she shouted. "I refuse to let fear dictate my past." Suddenly, the shadows recoiled as if they had been scalded. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and in that moment, she felt the collective weight of her memories pushing up from the dark depths. Bursts of joy, despair, love and loss radiated from her heart, a kaleidoscope of color splashing against the black. She could see it now, the flames of that dreadful night, the panic, the cries for help. Each element gripped her with fresh agony, yet she steeled herself against the onslaught. "I remember now." The truth poured forth like a flood. "I was scared. I was lost. But I can't let that fear define me any longer. Jess needs me." A surge of determination surged through her body. With a fierce cry, she thrust her arms forward, reaching out towards the little girl who stood in the fire's remembrance. "Jess! I'm here. Hold on." In that instant, the dance of shadows faltered, swirling away from her, losing shape against the brilliance of her newfound resolve. They screamed in futile anger, retreating into the corners of her mind, but the darkness still lingered, a heavy mist that wrapped around the edges of her being. Her heart raced as she realized she had only scratched the surface of what lay ahead. Now, as the shadows finally receded, her surroundings shifted. The house reassembled, a haunting echo of the laughter and light it once held. Yet clearly, this wasn't the end. A sudden chill crept through the air, and a whisper slithered into her ear. "You think you've won, Sarah? The real battle lies ahead." Her breath hitched, and she spun around, the fear coiling tightly in her chest. In the very shadows she thought she had driven away, another figure began to take form, this one unfamiliar, but somehow sinister. With mounting dread, Sarah's instincts screamed at her to run. She felt the very walls tremble around her, and in that moment, reality twisted into something darker. Who was this new threat? "Face me," the voice called, echoing with a chilling familiarity. Sarah's heart pounded in her ears as the figure stepped closer, revealing a face she never expected to see again. Would she be able to confront not just her past, but this new horror? The darkness was far from finished with her. The figure emerged from the shadows, and Sarah froze in disbelief. It was Jess, her daughter, but not the vibrant girl she remembered. Jess stood there, glassy-eyed, her once bright smile replaced by an expression of anguish. "Mommy," she whispered, the word laden with a haunting sorrow. "Jess! No!" Sarah lunged forward, but something held her back, chains of regret binding her in place. "I thought I lost you. I thought I couldn't save you." Panic clawed at her throat as visions flared, flashes of fire, the sonorous pleading of her child, the frantic attempts to escape. "You didn't save me," the figure echoed, voice trembling like a fragile leaf under wind. "You left me that night." In that moment, the memories flooded back, each one a jagged shard embedding deep into her heart. The flames, the frantic search, the moment she had been too paralyzed by fear to act. "No. I tried." Tears streamed down her face as she grappled with the truth. "I called for you. I wanted to be there." Jess stepped closer, ethereal and yet grounded in her pain. "What good is wanting if it doesn't change the past?" The shadows quivered around them, feeding off the despair that radiated from Sarah. The room spun as Sarah's heart sank. "You're a part of this darkness too," she breathed, horror dawning on her. The more she fought against her memories, the more they twisted into something cruel and consuming. "But you can't be this, isn't what you wanted." The shadows echoed ominous laughter, wrapping around Sarah like a noose. "Face it, Sarah. To save Jess, you must confront what you fear most." With shaky hands, Sarah wiped her tears. She couldn't let the regrets win. "No, I refuse to believe I lost you." She took a deep breath, the air heavy but resolute. I failed, yes. But that doesn't have to be the end. I won. Let it be. Strength surged as she took a step toward Jess, looking straight into her haunting gaze. You're with me, and I'll find a way to bring you back. I can't change what happened, but I can change how it defines me. Suddenly, the chamber trembled, shadows swirling in a frenzy. Enough! Sarah shouted, her voice strong, filling the darkness. Let us go. Jess's face softened, a flicker of light breaking through the shadows. You have the power. If you confront my memory, we can find peace. Where? Fear gripped her, but a spark of hope ignited within. Show me. The darkness shifted, merging into images of the past Jess in bright sunlight, her laughter echoing through a summer day, the warmth of being a family. Each positive memory wrestled against the shadows, growing stronger. Remember, the voice urged. Remember the love. With determination, Sarah focused on the memories of joy, shoving away the pain that threatened to drown her. You're here, Jess. You are alive in my heart. The chamber jolted, cracking and reforming around them, splitting the shadows as vivid light poured through. Face your truth. It is time. Sarah's heart raced, every recollection now a beacon. She had a choice, to linger in the shadows of regret or to fight for the light that remembered love. The fragments of Jess smiled at her within her mind as a memory of trust, confidence, the belief that love would conquer all. Jess! Sarah yelled with fierce clarity, her voice echoing. I'm not leaving you behind. I will carry you with me, and together we will find peace. The darkness shrieked, swirling violently in protest, but the light within Sarah blazed brighter than ever. You won. Take her from me. The walls buckled around her, cracks slithering like snakes, and the shadows shrieked before they shattered into brilliance. A powerful light shimmered through, and Sarah felt an incredible warmth wrap around her, pulling Jess from the shadows with a radiant embrace. As Jess's form wavered between light and shadow, Sarah reached out, fingers trembling. Take my hand, Jess. We can face this together. With one last surge of strength, Jess stepped forward, becoming one with the light, and through the brilliance, their voices merged. I am here, Mom. In that split second, joy eclipsed the darkness, laughter ringing out as the shadows crumbled altogether, leaving behind silence and solace. The air pulsed with warmth, the weight of grief lifting. They stood together, heartbeats resonating, a connection deeper than fear. Sarah looked around her, the past soothed and healed within that shared moment. Together, we'll make it through this, she whispered, their bond now a tether of hope. Time seemed to freeze, and in that moment, she knew she wouldn't just walk away. It was only the beginning, a chance to reclaim the pieces of her life, face the truths waiting to be uncovered, and emerge stronger for the love that endured. As the shadows faded into nothing, a sense of freedom washed over her. She turned, stepping into the light ahead, holding onto Jess's spirit in her heart. We're free, she whispered, knowing that they would both rise, together this time, into the dawn of a brighter future, but before she could step fully into the light, she heard the familiar echoes of her mother's voice, steady and soft, you're never truly alone, dear. Hope flickered, a whispering promise to guide her forward, embrace it. And with that, Sarah stepped confidently into the light, ready to take on whatever came next, determined to live for both of them. As Sarah walked on, a foundation of light beneath her feet, she knew her story was far from over. The shadows had tested her resolve but had only served to illuminate the truth of her heart, a heart that loved fiercely, capable of enduring the trials of the past and opening new doors to the future. And behind her, the ghostly echoes faded into whispers of freedom, beckoning others searching for the same illumination in their own lives. Now, there is a calling. You have to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support, don't wait even one more second. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending, and instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't let the darkness come creeping back. Let us shine together.